In this lecture, we're going to learn about the else-if ladder, which is the part of decision-making statements in C. Now, else-if ladder is a multi-way decision-making statement because it works with multiple conditions. We're going to see with an example here. Like in this example, if you see that you are given the score scored by a student in a subject, let's say the score is represented by the variable x. Now, based on this table, you like to decide what is the grade that is received by the student. Okay. Now, if the score is greater than 90, the grade would be A. And if the score is between 70 and 90, the grade is B. Similarly, if the score is less than equals to 30, the grade is E. Okay. The grade and the score mapping is given in this table. Now here you need to make a decision what grade the student has received in an exam, right? So for this case, you have multiple decision making points. So this is very well represented using the else if ladder. So it is something like if else, but there's an extension to it. Now let's look at the syntax first. So first of all, it looks like if else itself. So first you write if, then you give the expression. This is the first expression that you are trying to evaluate. This expression can be either true or false. Whenever this expression is true, if this is true, statement 1 is evaluated, okay, and nothing else is evaluated. It will not go further down and check other statements or other expressions. But in case the expression 1 is false, in that case, it will go to the next if. Okay, so here you see I have written if, and then this is else if. So there's a space between if and else here. Okay, so if you write expression, you give the statement 1. Okay, that is the statement of the if part. Okay, if the expression 1 is true, you execute the statement 1. If expression 1 is false, you go to the next if. Okay, so you go to this expression 2 and evaluate. If this is true, you execute the statement 2 and then you stop. You do not go further. But if this is false, you go and execute the next statement, and you can have multiple sequences of else if, else if, else if, else if, else if, as many as you want. And finally, you should end with else. This is a very important point to note. Always the else if ladder should end with else. So if nothing matches, if none of the expressions are true, then the last statement would be executed by default. So this is how else if ladder works. Now let's try to write a code based on this example of determining the grade of a student based upon the score X, right? The syntax of else if ladder is given here. So first of all, we'll start with the first condition. What is the first condition? X greater than 90. So relational greater than operator we can use. So if X is greater than 90, okay, what do I do? What is the statement? I'll have to print the grade is A, okay. Else if the score is not greater than 90, then it will come to the if, okay, else if. So here I need to write the expression, this one I'll write, that is X is greater than 70, okay, because there are two conditions here, greater than 70, and I'll use logical and I'll have to write X is less than equals to 90. This is how you write in C, okay. This is how you write in math, and this is how you write in C. This is the next condition, expression 2, and if this is true, that means the grade is B. So I'll print the grade B in the screen. Now if this happens to be false, I'll have to check this condition, that is the third condition. The condition is X must be greater than 50, X is greater than 50, and logical and X is less than equals to 70. So I'm checking this condition. If this condition is true, I'll have to display C grade in the screen. And if this condition is false, I have to check the next condition. The next condition is X is greater than 30 and X is logical and X is less than equals to 50. So this is the next condition. If this is true, obviously I have to display D because the grade is D. So I just write these many conditions, that is condition 1, expression 1, expression 2, expression 3, and expression 4. I need not write expression 5 here because if all of these are false, if none of these are matching, by default the grade would be E. That means the score is less than equals to 30. So in the final else part, see there is no condition given here. Okay, I simply write E here. Okay, that means let's say that if the score X is 16, if the student has scored 16 marks, so first it will check this one. 16 is greater than 90? False. So we'll come to this one. Is 16 between 70 and 90? Again false. So this is the second condition that is being evaluated. This is false. Now we'll go to this one. Okay. Is 16 between 50 and 70? This is the third evaluation. This is also false. Go to the fourth one. You evaluate this. Is 16 between 30 and 50? Again false. So if all of these are false, obviously 16 does not matches with all these conditions. So by default, grade E is displayed for 16. This is how it works. Okay, so it will go from top to bottom by evaluating the expressions one by one. If the expression is true, the corresponding true statement is evaluated and you stop the else if ladder there itself. If the condition becomes false, go and check the next condition. Keep on doing that until you reach the last condition. By default, if all the conditions are not matching, in that case, the last statement inside the last else would be printed by default. This is how else if ladder works. Now let's try to demonstrate the working of else if ladder by writing a code. So this is the same code that we had done in our previous lecture. This code will print whether the number is positive or negative, two-way decision making using if else. Now let's try to run this code on the input that is 0. If I provide 0, it is saying that number is negative. Now 0 is actually neither negative nor positive, right? So what I want here is if the user enters 0 as the input, it should display that the number is 0. So I have one more decision point here. So I have to have one more expression to see that if the number is 0 or not, right? So what I do is I'll introduce else if here. So if x is greater than 0, it is positive. Else if x is less than 0, the number is negative. And finally else if nothing matches, if it is not positive, neither positive nor negative, then it has bound to be, the number is bound to be 0. Okay. So I'll just write it this way. I'll just write number is 0. Okay. Now let's try to compile this code and then see how it works. If I give 5, so it is saying that 5 is positive. If I give -9, it is saying that -9 is negative. And now if I give 0, it says that the number is 0. Okay. Now this program works well. Okay. So this is a very simple example of else if ladder. You can have as many else if as you want in your program. Okay. I hope by now you have understood the working of the else if ladder. In our next lecture, we're going to talk about the conditional operator. Until then, stay tuned.